Do you want to get into why I was kind of a dick, or why I came across that way? Because I was asking some tough questions. I feel it was in DMs
Sure.
though, so we don't have to talk about it.
Okay. um.
Not the specific
Oh,
DMs. We don't have to get into that, but like
you would have.
the argument, the broader argument.
Yeah. So I actually am kind of stronger on the idea that we shouldn't have had to constantly distance ourselves from the woman of that were being held up as like the I'll just say names: Brianna Wu, Anita Sarkeesian, uh, Zoe Quinn, etc. We shouldn't have had to constantly be like, we cannot discuss them. One of the things I also was, I guess, a part of was like with the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial. I watched a lot of it, and I skipped parts because I was just like, this is gonna remind me a lot of my abuser, and I can't handle that. And I actually like asked someone else like, am I going to be able to handle this? And they were like, yes, actually, I think you can. And I did. So I watched a lot of it. I found it helpful to like watch some Twitch streamers, like even Asmongold, talking about it because it was just a buffer. And I found that really helpful. And I think one of the things I took away from that was that with Amber Heard, I would constantly say, Amber Heard is canceled party. Pass the word on. I had been doing that since the transcripts came out in the UK trial, but it became a lot more common with women stateside when it was on US TV, obviously. And one of the things I personally kind of learned from it is when people were talking about it, it wasn't like it would really spread that much direct harassment to her. I don't think it even spread that much direct negativity about her. I think it just helped people get more aware of truth and reality. And so, like, for instance, the Aquaman movie, I straight up said, I cannot watch this because she's in it. I just can't. I'm not going to enjoy it. Like, and okay, so Harry Potter, a lot of people in the gaming space and especially Gamergate were like, of course I'm going to play Hogwarts Legacy. Why would I care that, J.K. Rowling has some really turfish messages, etc. And I was kind of more with the trans groups who are just kind of like, I'm not comfortable playing this because of that. And I think it's a personal choice. I don't think anybody who played it should be harassed. I know certainly some people were definitely. And like, I saw Axeman's video on how he was like talking about like, oh, okay, what if we donate to, trans charities? And they were like, no, not good enough. And I was like, all right, you're being a little ridiculous. And some people definitely were just like, we want to cancel because we want to cancel somebody. And that I definitely think, yeah, like before 2019, that would have been even more common. And I'm not saying like, oh, it was a mistake not to do this way back when. I'm just saying, I think with the experience of Amber Heard, I don't think worrying as much about it would have been as necessary as we all assumed. But again, because of the harassers, nobody wants to be like, yes, we support harassment. Like, no, we do not support harassment.
Well, our disagreement wasn't over the Amber Heard thing specifically. Um, would you say that someone like Brianna Wu has lied about Gamergate?
Yes. I was in the thread on Steam where she tried to create her own harassment. So she tried to create a thread talking about how bad she is as a person. She later said it was like supposed to be a joke, but she got herself kicked off of Steam because of it. That became a whole big scandal within Gamergate because she had only been trying to do that because of Gamergate and so forth. I don't have a personal problem with Brianna Wu. I had tried to tell her I actually thought if she had created her game Revolution 360, etc., more not 360. What was 520? as a comic book series, I think it would have done a lot better because it was surprisingly plot detail and world building heavy, much more than you would get the impression from her game. And her game, she didn't really listen to her game testers. They were saying, like, the walking makes it feel too slow and you're not running anywhere. The game action itself doesn't really correspond with the plot. And you have these great, like, cyberpunk themes, but you're not really utilizing them in the way they could
Okay,
have.
maybe
And I
Brianna
think it
Wu
would have
was a bad
worked.
example, but you do want quote unquote. You did express the view, correct? That it
The
would be
Gamergate
good.
should have
Go ahead, you do it.
the Gamergate should have expressed more visibly the lies and exposed the quote unquote grifters, if you will, for who they were and what the truth and reality is. And I do stand by that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable position to hold, but it's terrible optics. I think,
Yes. And
like,
again, I don't care about optics very much. I think but this is like my personal, like, what I mentioned before with the SJW thing, like, what you say about me doesn't matter. The actions will change what that means, kind of thing. So, like Huron, like, if you call me an SJW, then I'm an SJW. Like, I'll take that to become a compliment. And that's the personal problem I have with optics because I am Native American, and so I've been so raised with the idea that labels are only as meaningful as you let them be. And I think that was like another thing I was trying to sort of prove when it came to the gamer label. Like, gamers aren't actually misogynistic and hateful people. They're fantastic, they're varied, yes. Some people are using video games to blow off steam. That's called griefing. I've met a few in League of Legends. I don't think no one has if you've ever played League of Legends. And I've had, people be like, "You fucking feeder," and like flip out on me. And like when that happens, I just go quiet because every breath matters. But that said, most gamers are fantastic. I've had gamer friends my whole life, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think I'm incapable of caring about the optics as much as others. So I will leave it to you and those who understand it better.
no, no, I understand the desire. I too
Yes.
was of this view for a long time that, like, these people pretty much basically lied about us. Like, did some people harass them? Yeah, but did they also know that, like, the vast majority of the people involved weren't harassers? Like, yeah, they knew that. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they knew that. Maybe not Anita Sarkeesian, because I don't feel like she was like a huge internet person. I feel like she, like, but like Zoe
Sure.
Quinn and Brianna Wu were
Well, she
internet
also
people.
was like, yeah, she was much more filtered through John McIntosh. So
Well, yeah, she had like a whole organization and employees. Like, so, like, she like,
yeah,
I understand if like her perspective is, oh, a bunch of fucking weirdos on the internet don't like me. Gamer gators, some of them are gamer gators. Well, fuck them. They're all gamer. Fuck these people harassing must be gamer gators too. I can understand from her perspective like why she think. But Brianna Wu and
sure.
Zoe Quinn were like talking to people about this, like on
Yeah.
like Brianna
Brianna
Wu
Wu
had
absolutely knew,
conversations
but
across the aisle with people. She'd sit next to
100%.
Hatman at a
I mean,
panel.
she talked to Milo Yiannopoulos about having like a peace meeting and crowdfunding the like breakfast or whatever,
I
and
don't
I
remember
was just
this.
like,
I don't remember
"What?"
this at all.
Yeah,
But
she
like,
did. Oh
but
man, that
like,
was
yeah,
some
but
wild
like, these were like, I
stuff.
feel like Brianna Wu knows that most people involved in GamerGate like didn't support harassment of her. I feel like she knows that, and like,
No,
I
she
feel
doesn't
like we
care.
could
Like,
work together. Like, what we should have done, like, is like the pro GamerGate people and the good faith anti GamerGate people, good faith people on both sides, come together and be like, hey, look, let's build a better games industry together. We all support hopefully creative freedom. We all support ethics, presumably, right? We all support opposing her. We're all opposed to harassment. We're all support diversity, but we want to make sure it's done well. We want to make sure that we have strong female characters in games. That's great. Let's do that. But let's also make sure that we do it in a way where the characters are well written and where it does justice to the franchise. And let's not
Okay.
demonize gamers as a whole. Gamer identity. Like the Gamers Dead articles were a horrible mistake.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you straight up though, I talked to a bunch of journalists and they straight up, I mean, yeah, good faith. Okay, but I didn't find a single good faith person and I tried. Like I kept going because I'm stubborn as hell. And so I kept trying and I could not find them who would be open to even that. When I said, "Come on, don't you care about the ethics?" and they said, "Yes." But that's just a lie gamers tell to like hide their misogyny. It was very, very frustrating because when you have a conversation, you have to concede what the other person is saying as well, right? This is going back to the optics thing. I mean, it's more just like what you say is what I am kind of thing if it comes to labels. With this, you couldn't argue with them because they wouldn't acknowledge what you said about yourself. And that was the problem.
So when you want these people discredited, what do you think would be the good way to discredit them?
Probably just kind of like what you're doing, writing the book of showing just pure truth and then themselves for what they are saying and so forth. And then just like fucking show reality. Like it becomes very obvious when you have it side by side. Like reality, illusions. I think that's just what we should have done more of. But because, like, so I would have done videos had I not been part of, like, everybody would say, no, we're not talking about them because that's not important. They are not the conversation. And I do think, had I been more, I don't want to say aggressive, but had I not agreed to just be like, they're not part of the discussion, they're not part of the ethics, we're just not going to talk about them, then I certainly would have tried to do more of the showing side by side, like from a former SJW perspective, straight up, like this is what they say, and yet this is the truth, kind of thing.
To clarify something, I know a couple people in the chat were talking about if they should speculate on if Brianna Wu is trans or not. And I want to just say this right here and now that that sort of thing is not going to be allowed here. Okay? I don't know if she is. I
And
don't
it
care if she is.
doesn't
It's none of our
change anything.
business. And if you want to talk
Exactly.
about that, this is your warning. You will get banned, okay? And not just from the stream chat, but from the Discord too. Because I'm not going to allow that sort of thing in my community, okay?
That
We
also
don't
is
misgender
very
people, and
doxing.
we don't misgender people, and we don't speculate on if somebody's trans. We don't do that here. All right. Sorry, I just wanted to address that.
Very fair.
Sorry, I'm going through like oh, so actually, so discrediting these people. Um, damn, I kind of lost my train. So some people would say, I might even say, and this is where I think we disagreed. Like I think that look, if these people, if these people did are lying about us, and maybe they are, I think it's fine to be like, hey, look, this specific claim that they made is not true. Here's why that specific claim is not true. I think that's perfectly reasonable and fair. But when you're like, no, we need to go out there and discredit this person for lying about us, like it
Well, it's
sounds
not so
like
much because they lied about us. Like a ton of journalists, quote unquote, lied about us because they just copied each other and they were all just like, we're not going to investigate for ourselves and personally. We're just going to take a word of our friends because they're our friends. Why would they be wrong? Like, I still acknowledge and talk to and deal with journalists who completely got Gamergate wrong. And I don't try to like change their mind on it because it's just, I tried once, I'm done. Like I can't keep doing that. What I would try to discredit more, for instance, is like I think there's been enough deep dives on Anita Sarkeesian that nobody else needs to do that ever again. I don't like I no longer feel the need to go more in depth on who the person who called in the bomb threat was, etc., because it's been done.
Well, who
When
called
it
in the
comes to
bomb
like
threat? Hang on, because there's I don't know who that is. Who did it?
oh, I thought they found him.
Are you talking about Arthur Chu? I think that was a
No,
joke.
no, 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 no. The FBI, actually, I guess it wasn't a bomb threat. It might have been gun. They were personally targeting her when she was going to go speak in Utah at the school.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Any case, like I said, that's so old. But with Brianna Wu, okay, so she's currently been kind of running for Congress with, or for the representative in Massachusetts, my state, with the whole mantra of like, I'm a woman and so forth, which again, not saying about the trans. I mean, straight up like against other women. And, but she's also mostly just using it as like a slush fund, which is not uncommon in politics. It is very common. I think it might have been more helpful if people were constantly making humor of the fact that she would do things like she talked about how the moon is a very important access point for strategic bombs because if you throw rocks from the moon to Earth, it is the equivalent of 52 nuclear bombs.
Oh, remember the Gamer Gators on Mars thing?
Yes, I too would go to Mars, but I don't trust Elon Musk to have the capacity to ever get a ship off planet Earth.
By the way, I said earlier the interview was going terribly. I actually feel it's really improved significantly. I feel like I allowed it to get way
No,
too
we're
off
on
topic, and I
target.
guided it a bit too off topic myself. But I feel like the second half, it's been great. I feel like we're really touching upon some like really important things here that are it's sharing an interesting perspective, and I think that this is I think this is a lot better, and I'm glad you decided to do this really, especially since I was a little bit hostile to you in the DMs.
I gotta tell you, after Anti Gamergate, you were definitely not at all hostile at all.
Well, I was just like I wanted to ask tough questions, right? And I'm like, well, back then we probably would not have agreed on this, and we probably still wouldn't.
Yes,
But I still want
and
to
yes, it's
what I
okay to disagree
yeah.
as long as we're both respectful and we understand each other's point of view. And I agree with your point of view. I'm not saying like I agree that I should act this way, but for instance, I have not made those videos, going after certain people specifically for that kind of reason. Because other people in Gamergate also said like, no, we're just not gonna talk about
Yeah.
them. It's
Well,
not worth it.
I mean, maybe you're right, even right. Maybe it is, but I feel like you gotta bring receipts. If you're gonna make specific
Yes.
you gotta back it up. And if you can back it up,
Yeah.
go for it. And we want to be like,
I
hey,
could
look, this
have
person was dishonest in this
years ago,
specific
but
instance. Here's proof of
yes,
that. Like that's fine, 1,000%. But you
yeah.
gotta do it well. And unfortunately, very few people can do it well. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you do the homework, right? I don't know. But
I am a little my father is very neuroatypical, my mother is too, so I have that going for me. Just obsessive and kind of that whole thing, but I don't have the receipts anymore because like I said, I don't even have any of my own receipts at this point, but back then I think I could have. I don't, but I do think it wasn't worth it. I understand, and certainly like when it came to ethics in journalism, that's what shut me up every time, because anyone who was like, when I first came in and was like, I'm gonna fight you, like, defend women in gaming, I too am a woman in gaming, etc. They were just like, so you care about the ethics in journalism? And I was like, yes. And that gets me every time. And I think that's also a big difference with like anti-Gamergate. If you say that, they just say like, that's not a thing you actually care about. Like, are you inside my head and heart? You know what I actually am caring about and lying about. Like, I have actions, I have receipts, I can prove for like the last 10, 20 years I've been talking about ethics and journalism. What do you mean? But yeah.
So someone in the chat is asking if you're talking about Gundam. If you're
With
referencing,
regards to
you were referencing a show earlier. They were asking if it was a Gundam reference.
when I was talking about Kobayashi,
I
you
don't know.
mean?
They didn't specify in the chat. But I guess if you didn't, then
I was not talking about Gundam. I actually haven't. I am not usually into mecha series, so that tends to be. Although I like mecha video games. Like mecha video games are so fun, and they always catch me by surprise because again, I don't usually like mecha in books or manga or anime. Video games, though, every time I'm like, yeah.
oh, sorry, I
Moon.
misread the. Well, he didn't clarify until later. But the person in the chat says, no, I mean, when Brianna Wu was talking about GamerGators on the moon, was she referencing Gundam then?
She was not talking about gamer gators on the moon. She was talking about how it was important to secure it from a national security perspective for the United States because you could throw rocks from the moon to Earth and it would be the equivalent of 52 nuclear
Oh,
bombs.
okay, yeah. Because it's kinetic. It's a
Throw
kinetic strike.
rocks from the moon.
Well, like that's a real
Like
thing,
she
right? Isn't
had,
it?
you cannot throw rocks from the
Well, not
moon. The
throw
moon is
them, but
not
like you can use
directly
like
up.
kinetic. No? Can you like launch them with like
No.
cannons or something? No.
No, that's not a thing. And if even if it was a thing,
No, I mean like I'm saying it's like theoretically possible, right? With physics, like
we
you could
don't
launch an
know.
object from the moon using propulsion, and it would hit the Earth at a fast enough rate. Didn't say gamer
No,
get Okay, all right, no, let's move on. This is why I don't take questions from the chat ever. Okay, unless it's a really good question. But okay, all right, sorry. Okay, GamerGators on Mars was someone else. Someone else said that there were GamerGators on Mars. You mentioned the
so there was
moon.
a whole bunch of
Chat mentions
articles
the
talking
moon.
about
This is a total. Let's move on. Okay.
how in the future, if they did not squash Gamergate now, then Gamergaters would be even on Mars. We would make it to Mars before the feminists and anybody who tried to like have a normal functioning futuristic society in the next 50 years would be unable to because the Gamergaters would have already taken over Mars. And that was a thing they really did say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Journalists
true.
who
And we mocked
use
them like
Gamergate
crazy
as a
for it.
boogeyman are not very smart.
I think
Just
was there even like a
saying it.
song? There was even like a song someone sang. It was like GamerGate on Mars, and like it's on YouTube. I'm pretty sure,
Pretty sure, yeah.
or it
Like
was
it
10
was
years ago. I don't know if
very
it's still up.
wild because it was so ridiculous.